Dr. Paul here, retired, no longer diagnosing and treating, but I coach, and I've been getting a lot of comments about teen angst. It reminds me, I've been doing this for over a decade, and some of you watching were maybe patients of mine, or you were young, and now you're a teenager, or perhaps you're parents who have a teenager, and my goodness, we are experiencing more angst, anxiety, if you will, than ever before. I mean, it's exponentially more prevalent. I think every other, I was going to say child or teenager, but probably even parents. We are all going through a time in our world where, let's just call it what it is. It's stressful. There are forces, things happening. I mean, gosh, just the lockdowns and the wearing masks and the being cut out of school and being put more online. I cannot stress enough how difficult it is for our physiology. Okay, so I'm going to geek out just for a moment, and then I'll try to get back to just general thoughts about teen angst. The way our brain works is through neurotransmitters. You've probably heard of dopamine, norepinephrine. These are like, epinephrine is fight or flight. That is something that's supposed to happen just momentarily when you're under attack. For example, you've run or fight or freeze, and it's life-saving, right, in certain critical conditions. Those moments of extreme stress are only supposed to happen for a few seconds, a minute or two at the most, and then you're supposed to go back into a calm, relaxed, rest and rejuvenate sort of state. We live in a world where there is so much input, and screens do this constantly, where that constant release of epinephrine, that your fight or flight hormone, also called adrenaline, it depletes you, right? So it's necessary for a moment, but when it's constant, you become completely depleted. And just that one neurotransmitter being depleted leaves you feeling fatigued, anxious, that angst that we were talking about. So it's a physical thing that's resulting in what you might have interpreted as an emotional state of being anxious or having that angst. So we've got to do what? How do we get through this and get back to feeling our old selves, if you will? Let's say you can remember a time when you were just happy-go-lucky, free, at ease with yourself and with the world. I mean, that's a state we all want to get back to, right? Well, this is all about self-care, believe it or not. I mean, sometimes in a crisis, you may need to see a doctor and get a medication, but self-care we can all do. And I would say it starts with this. Let's reduce the stressful things in our lives. The tricky part, if you're a student, you're a teenager, let's say, and I used to ask my teenagers like 10, 20 times a week, I would have a teenager coming in towards the end of my practice with anxiety. And I would say, well, what's the most stressful thing in your life? And guess what the answer was? School. How do you not do school? That's tricky. But I will say this, when we had everybody going in more into online work, there's a different stress level when you've got a screen in your face. It's doing something to that brain chemistry. I would say, look out the window, and I had a forest that was visible outside the window, and look at that forest, and it's just a different feeling. It's a much lower stress level. So number one, do what you can to get off screens. And I know for some teenagers that's like, oh no, don't ask me to do that, right? Because that's your release. You've got video games, and I can't play video games. For me, it's too intense. It just gets me wound up, right? So just think about that. Self-care, reducing screen time, reducing intensity that's coming at you from screens is super important. The next thing I would mention in regards to angst or anxiety is, how's your sleep? We all need a certain amount of sleep. It's vital. You think of it as rest and restore. Our bodies are not designed to be on all the time. I'll give you the classic, easy example to understand. If you've known anybody or seen or learned about people who get in trouble with methamphetamine, that is a chemical that just fires up all your neurotransmitters, and I'm told it feels amazing when you're on that huge neurotransmitter release and you're just like, I can do anything, I've got all this energy, but you are massively depleting your dopamine, epinephrine, norepinephrine, all those key neurotransmitters you need for focus and attention and all of that. Well, if you're chemically inducing that state, you can stay on and up and productive, even, if you will, for days sometimes, and then crash and burn, right? Because you are so depleted. There isn't even a drug in the world that will get any more neurotransmitters out of your system. They're done, they're washed, they're used up. That's what rest sleep is for, is totally rebalancing and restoring all your neurotransmitters. So whatever you need to do to sleep well, number one, have a routine, preferably a very dark environment where there's no blue light, there's no light at all if possible. And don't do caffeine after, if you're a caffeine user, don't use caffeine after noon. It takes 8, 10, 12 hours for most people for that caffeine to wash out of their system. Caffeine's a stimulant, and that's what people drink coffee or the power drinks that have caffeine. Why? Because it's like, it gives them some energy. Cut that out of your life for the 8, 10, 12 hours before you want to be asleep. You've got a routine, you've got caffeine, you've got a darker environment. Don't exercise too close to sleep time, don't eat too close to sleep time, and do something calm. Get screens off for at least an hour before sleep time. All these things, we call it sleep hygiene, will help you sleep better. And once you're getting routine, regular sleep, you get into a pattern of that, I think you're gonna notice right there's an improvement. And then I don't wanna not emphasize a couple other really important self-care things. And one is, what are you eating? Yes, grandma was right. You need to eat your fruits and vegetables, but the more we get away from processed, we'll call it junk food or fast food, the better. And if you're not a person who knows how to cook and make your own meals, you can eat vegetables, you can eat fruit. And you can also ask for help with those around you who maybe do know how to cook. And actually, if you're old enough to learn, I just learned 2 new recipes yesterday. I hate working from cookbooks, but I needed to do it for a class I'm taking on nutrition. And in the end, it wasn't that bad. After an hour, I learned some really important things. So make that a goal, maybe learn how to do that. And then don't forget exercise. If you're just a couch potato, you're not moving and getting your heart rate up, that's not good for your neurotransmitters. Angst, anxiety is coming from an imbalance physically of the neurotransmitters in your brain, and you can get those supported, balanced, see a natural, alternative, complementary health type provider who can also talk to you specifically about what supplements, nutrients are most important for you specifically. And you can actually go to doctorsandscience.com. There's a show I just recently did where one of the alternative natural providers goes through what they do to actually specifically figure out what neurotransmitters are out of whack for her patients. And that technology is available. It's easy lab testing done on a urine test and a little finger prick or cheek swab. So there's plenty we can do. I want you to know you're not alone. I've been there in a position of angst. We all go through it at one time or another. I'm here for you. Rally your support. Community is one of the most beneficial things when you're having angst, not feeling alone. So do all you can to connect with those who care and love you, and you will find that just that in itself is helpful. Could even be a pet. If you happen to have a pet that is one of those pets that will sit on your lap, that can be amazing too. I wish you the best. My heart's there for you.